Game Time is brought to you by State Farm, here to help life go right.
Once I came down from the shot, I pushed off to run back down court, and I thought somebody tripped me up. And I looked back, and I'm like, first thing that came to my mind was like, Boogie said, Kobe said, Dominique Wilkins said that, it felt like somebody just kicked him or did something, tripped him or something. So that's the first thing that went through my mind. I was like, let me slow down and process a bit what's going on. And then I started walking. I realized that I can put some weight on it. It's not as bad as I thought. And I was pretty relieved after that. I'm just taking it a second at a time. Every rep we do in the weight room, I just try to focus on that rep and not try to think too far down the line because, I don't really know too much about this injury. I'm just leaving it to the hands of the team doctors, and I trust what the direction that they trying to put me in.
Does it feel similar to your previous calf injuries, or was it a little different?
Nah, it was different.
How so?
It was worse.
It'll be easy. We've been through this before where guys have been out. Like 2017 when he went out with his knee injury and came back right before the playoffs, but we were able to adjust and adapt. We're a great team because everybody who puts on a uniform goes out and competes at a high level. We look out for each other. There's a little bit of sacrifice, but at the end of the day, it's all about winning. And no matter who's on the floor, that's what we're about. So that question before, like when K gets back, are we going to be able to transition? Yeah, because we have that experience and that capability to do so.
The Warriors have both reached and won the finals with and without Kevin Durant. After a 7-4 start to the playoffs this year, they've rattled off 5 straight wins to reach a 5th straight final since Durant suffered a calf strain against the Rockets. And the question isn't really whether they're better without Kevin Durant. That question
that's a silly
posed
question.
out there. It is a silly question.
You didn't make one point, though.
He's an elite player.
They haven't lost a championship with Kevin Durant.
No, that's true. They have not lost a championship.
I just wanted to clarify that.
I know I didn't say that.
No,
they had.
You did.
No, just so we're on the same page.
Surprised.
The question at this point for me is how much they'll need Kevin Durant to beat whoever comes out of the East.
I think the biggest thing that we're seeing right now is that Kevin Durant we know he's a great player, and we know right now he's the best player in the league. But for this team, because of how great the Splash Brothers are, Kevin Durant is a luxury, not a necessity. So I don't want you to think I'm saying they're better without Kevin Durant. That's not the case. But I do not think they need Kevin Durant to beat either the Bucks or the Toronto Raptors, especially if they get Iguodala back. I'm hearing they might get Boogie Cousins back. So if these guys are healthy, I think they'll be just fine. Now, if Kevin Durant and Iggy are gone, it could pose some problems. But if they can get Iguodala back, with the way this team plays and the way they move the ball, you saw they were able to sweep Portland in the Western Conference and beat Houston at home in the Game 6. They will be able to possibly win this title without Kevin Durant. It's going to be a lot tougher, but it can be done because of the greatness of the Splash Brothers. So this isn't a diss to Kevin Durant. It's basically lifting up the Splash Brothers and what Steph Curry has done in these playoffs. This is probably his best playoff run in his whole career.
I would say, listen, they're a great team, obviously, without him. But I would disagree. I think they need Kevin Durant to beat a team like Toronto.
Not Milwaukee, not to put words
possibly
in your mouth,
Milwaukee as well. But the thing about Toronto too that sometimes Toronto is not like this inexperienced team that's never been there. They're a team that defensively is going to be every bit as good as Golden State, and then offensively they got a guy in Kawhi who is going to create a lot of problems.
And a Finals MVP.
They got Danny Green, who's won a championship. They've got Serge Ibaka, who's played in the NBA Finals. They got Marc Gasol, who's played in the conference final. They've got a lot of guys that have a lot of experience, and I just think they're a better equipped team. When you take KD off that roster, and let's be real, Portland was not conference final worthy from this standpoint. That was a great accomplishment to get there. But they weren't the second best team in the Western Conference.
They beat the second best team in the Western Conference?
No, they didn't.
Who was the second best team?
Second best team to me was Houston.
The second best team was Denver.
I asked Steve Kerr
second best
during
record.
the season. Second best record is different. I asked Steve Kerr. I said, "Hey, Steve," I'd say, "Who's the second best team?" He didn't let me finish the sentence before he said the Houston Rockets. So I'm going to take his opinion on that. And I believe that as well. And again, Portland was a great story. They had a really good run. But again, and you saw what happened with Denver in that 7th game. That was a really young team that didn't handle it at home, couldn't make a shot. I mean, and Portland was able to get there. I just think that this Toronto team is a little bit more of an animal than we're giving them credit for. This is not a depleted Cleveland team from a season ago, even 2 seasons ago. Yeah, they had Kyrie. Kevin Love wasn't quite the same, and their supporting cast was really old, and just they didn't have the bodies or the athletes. I think this Toronto team's a little bit better, especially with how, again, we're not even giving Kawhi Leonard credit. Kawhi Leonard's proven in this postseason that he's in the conversation to be the best player in the world because he does things on the other side of the floor that nobody else in the world does. And also getting 32, 33 points a night efficiently. So that's my opinion. I think they would definitely want to have Kevin Durant for a championship run against that Raptors team, possibly even the Bucks. It just, listen, you want great players out there. You know, what happens if Steph's off a little bit or Klay's off a little bit? Are they going to be able to still have the same level of success? I think that would be a concern for the Warriors.
Hold on.
You think they need him. You think they don't.
You said that this Toronto Raptors team is better than the Cleveland Cavaliers team with Kyrie and LeBron?
Not the team.
Hey, we want to debate this in the back. That could be a whole nother segment.
No, I just
that could be a whole nother segment.
If you look at their supporting cast, that team that had Channing Frye, had Richard Jefferson, had Kyle Korver, those guys weren't able to have an impact on a high-level game at that stage of their career. They just weren't. That was just the reality. And you know what? Kenny talked about this earlier. The regular season shows you what you can be, but the postseason shows you who you are. And we saw who they were when they got against a team that could affect and take away certain things. And we're seeing it with Milwaukee to a certain extent with what Toronto's able to do in terms of limiting Giannis and also Chris Middleton.
I think that I take that Cleveland team with Kyrie and Bron. Then especially 2 years ago, Bron, that was a different.
Well, how about this? All they got, based on your assumption, they only got to win 2 games then, right? That would make them better, wouldn't it? Because Cleveland only won 1. So if Toronto wins 2 games in the finals,
by that measure,
that would mean they were better, wouldn't it?
No, not really.
Why not? You just said you were a numbers guy. You said the second best team. You said the second best team had the best record. That's why they were the second best team.
I said I was a numbers guy, and then we were talking about Denver being the second best team, and you wanted to throw your opinion out there. Denver was the second best team. Nobody care what you're talking about. No, I don't care about your opinion or Steve Kerr's. Denver was the second best team.
Okay.
Bottom line, Warriors would rather have Kevin Durant.
Yeah,
finals.
that is true.
Now that we can agree upon.
First and East opponent's got to get there.